Two US-made HIMARS systems were destroyed.
They destroyed 27 HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems and a dozen more were damaged, as the Russian Ministry of Defense reported. The last imaginary victory was the destruction of 4 HIMARS at once, 2 in Drushkivka and 2 more in Kramatorsk, Donetsk region. However, Ukraine has only 20 systems, and not a single official source, except for Konashenko, reports the elimination of at least one of them. On the contrary, US National Security spokesman John Kirby said on January 5th that all HIMARS systems are intact and successfully operating. General Konashenko is the personification of the Kremlin propaganda, and he is also the hero of a thousand memes about virtual reality in which Russians are supposed to live. In the spring of 2022, according to Konashenko, the Russian army captured Kreminna in the Luhansk region 7 times. Or, for example, according to the Federation Ministry of Defense, the Russian army destroyed about 400 Ukrainian aircraft and over 200 helicopters, and such elimination is actively continuing. For example, on January 8th.
Two Su-25 and MiG-29 aircraft were shot down.
But Ukraine does not have and did not have such an amount of aviation equipment, military observers say. However, the Ukrainian armed forces continue to effectively perform their tasks at the front.
We saw perfectly how in 2022 the Russian army tried to avoid our airspace. I wonder why. Because we don't have air defense and we don't have aircraft to counter their aircraft. Not so long ago in Makiyivka the maximum number of Russian occupiers were destroyed at the same time in the shortest possible period of time. What should the Ministry of Defense do? It is urgent to get out of this situation by destroying hundreds and thousands of HIMARS aircraft, fighter jets, and of course the plan of revenge. Konashenkov is exactly that man of revenge.
The destruction of everything in a row in the reports of the Russian Ministry of Defense looks anecdotal when against the background of the reports of Wagner private military company. They at least sometimes talk about their losses. Since the beginning of the war, the Russian audience in Telegram has grown many times over, according to Russian analysts at Mediascope. Even those the most loyal to the Kremlin prefer the so-called military correspondents to Konashenko. All such channels create one agenda, together ignoring the unfavorable events on the front. They position themselves as a patriotic opposition, which unmask the Russian Ministry of Defense. But in fact, their most important task is to whiten Putin's reputation. Propagandists are looking for and appointing those responsible for the defeats of the Russian army and are calling for even more brutal killing of peaceful Ukrainians.
All these near-military experts, bloggers, really sometimes go against the official propaganda, because they are well aware that people who are really fighting understand the essence of the problems that the Russian army is facing in Ukraine. But they are part of propaganda, and the main task of this machine is the protection and stability of the political regime, and no one will question the decisions of the Supreme Commander.
There are no losses, and even if there are, then not many. This was the case with the cruiser Moskva, where supposedly by some miracle everyone survived at first, and then not so much everyone. This is also what happened to the mobilized Russians in Makiyivka. There, where there could have been about 600 people, less than 100 military personnel were recognized as killed. Russian propaganda urges people to die for Putin's idea, but is not ready to recognize their own casualties. Reported by Roman Smoler, Yulia Bezborodko, UATV News.